Hey everybody, it's Charlie from Charlie's Flybox, and today I'm going to finally tie for you a Gilled Nymph. This is Shane Stalkup's Gilled Nymph, and Shane passed, 10, 12 years ago, but was one of the most creative tiers around, and had some really cool stuff, and this is one of them. This fly is still popular to this day. We sell tons of them. It's a great Callibatus nymph imitation. I'm going to tie you the tan version here today, but this is how you go about tying it. It's got some unique tying methods and techniques, and uses materials in some unusual ways. So I'm going to just jump right in here and show you what I do to tie this. So I've got in the vise a size 16 Tiemco 200R. And yes, you could tie this on a 201R. It'll be a little bit shorter, but that is a little bit stouter hook. And I'm going to tie this with some tan Veevus 14-aught, just tan color. And I'm going to start this thread, excuse me, just up here about maybe like 75%. And I'm going to wrap back all the way down the bend to just short of the point on the barb. And at this point, for the tail, Shane used Ostrich Herl tips, but I'm going to use emu fibers. So you can see these emu fibers are filamented. They're nice fuzzy little fibers, and they're tapered. And I'm going to use 3 of them. So I'm going to peel 3 off of this stem, like so. And I'm going to measure these about a ½ shank long. And I'm going to tie these in at the bend, right on top of the hook bend. And I don't do anything special to split those. You can kind of thumbnail them if you want. They'll spread out and move around in the water once you take them fishing. So then I'm going to take a piece of fine gold wire, and this is going to become our rib here in a minute. I'm trying to get this back in the notch on my spool so it doesn't end up in a mess. So now I've got my piece of fine gold wire. I'm going to catch that along my near side, and I'm going to wrap back over it to the base of the tail. And I'll just clip that in my material spring back out of the way. Now for the abdomen, what I'm going to use is 2 strands of Ostrich Herl. And what I'm looking for is something that's got very long flues on it. This is a really nice one. This is an old one. You can see that's as wide as the hook gap. Can't hardly find Ostrich Herl this good anymore. So good luck with that. But it's one of the advantages of being an old guy is you have some cool stuff. So I'm going to lay these 2 Herls together, and I'm going to wet my fingers and create a separation point, like you might with a hackle. You can see right there above the tie-in, right here, the separation point that I've created at the tip end of the feather. And I'm going to catch that right at that separation point, and then wrap forward over those tips up to my starting point, and I'll cut those tips out of there. Now I'm going to take both my Ostrich Herls. Once I wet those, I usually kind of fluff them up a little bit. I'm going to take my Ostrich Herls, and I'm going to begin to wrap forward. And you can see this is going to make a very bushy body. And I want to come a little too far forward here, into my thorax section. And then tie those off. And I could trim those butt ends out. So you can see how big and bushy that body is. And now I'm going to take my wire, and I'm going to spiral wrap it forward through that Herl, just evenly spaced turns, and that's going to reinforce it. And then I can tie the wire off, helicopter that, and break that out of there. Now you can see the front end of this is splayed forward a bit. I can sweep this back and get a couple turns on it, just to kind of sweep everything back. And you can see there's a bit of a taper just naturally from the taper of the feather. The reason Shane used the Ostrich Herl on here is Callibatus nymphs, most still water mayflies, or slow water mayflies anyway, have very big gills, and their gills stick out to the side. So what we're going to do is come in and trim this Ostrich Herl off the top Shane did this with a hot needle, and he'd just come in and kind of burn them off. But I've always had better luck with my scissors. And then I'm going to do the same thing along the bottom, so that we're going to be left with just those flues sticking out the sides. Hopefully I didn't just blow that all over the camera. Just sticking out the sides of the fly there. Give you a little focus on that. Whoa. Bear with me, it'll come back. There we go. Like so. So once I've got that abdomen built, I'm going to come in for the wing case, and I'm going to use a piece of Swiss straw. Now Shane used Medallion sheeting, but until Brian Schmidt gets us another batch of the Gen 2 Medallion sheeting, Swiss straw has been what we've all used. And I should point this out because people have asked me about this. So Swiss straw this is brown Swiss straw, by the way, is very strong this way, but if you pull it this way, it tears real easily. So when you tie it in, you always want to tie it in lengthwise. And I'm going to tear a strip that's about 1.5 times as wide as the gap of the hook, like so. And the reason I want it a little extra wide is when I tie it in, it'll wrinkle up, and that's going to give some texture to our wing case. So that's going to become our wing case. Now for the thorax, I'm just going to use some Superfine dubbing here, just tan colored Superfine. And again, you know, whatever color your Callibatus are, sometimes they're olive. I've seen them where they're almost orange. I've seen them dark brown. So they can vary. Tan and olive seem to be the most common, but that doesn't mean that's all they come in. So a thin little layer of Superfine dubbing, and I'm going to dub this from just behind our index point and start to build this up to the base of the wing case. Fatten them up just a little there. I'm going to put just a touch more dubbing on there. I should mention I haven't had to tie one of these in years, and this is the first one. I did not warm up, so you're seeing it live action. So I'm just going to taper that thorax back down to our index point, like so. Now for the legs, we're going to use a partridge feather, and I like to use sort of the brownish colored partridge feathers. I've got a pretty mediocre hide right here. There's a feather I think we can use, that I just sort of half ruined, but I think we could still use it. As I went to pull that out, I tore the tip out of that, but we're going to tear the tip out anyway, so not a big deal. What I'm going to do is prep this feather by stripping the fluff end off the base, like so. And then I'm going to come in and cut the center stem, leaving that V, like so. I'm going to take this feather and lay those fibers on either side of the hook. Now, I talk about this all the time in a variety of different flies. I want these tips to come back about to the hook point. But if I hold them right square here and tie them in, my thread's going to twist them away from me. So I'm going to tilt these just slightly toward me here, and then pinch them in place, and catch them with a couple turns up here behind the eye. And I can kind of use my thread to roll those fibers. You can kind of manually manipulate them if need be. Then I'm going to pull those butt ends back. In this case, I'm actually going to fold those back and get another turn or two on them, then trim the stems out of the butt out. That's just going to make for a cleaner tie down right there. Like so. So we've got legs on either side of the thorax. Then I'm going to pull my Swiss straw up between, and when I tie the Swiss straw off, I want it to cinch down so that it's got kind of that wrinkled wing case look to it. I'll fold that wing case back one more time. Just form a smooth thread head and come in and whip finish. Nip that out of there. Come in and trim the butt end of this wing case off. And you can kind of come in and clean this up a bit. Like so. I think we're looking pretty good. We'll give them a little more trim across the bottom. And what we've got is a bug with big abdominal gills, pretty slender bug overall, but those wide flowy abdominal gills that really matches a Callibaetis nymph very well. This is a killer fly. I've caught a lot of fish on this fly over the years. Now you could tie this with a bead head as well. I like a bead head. A lot of times, fish in shallow water when Callibaetis are active, you can sight fish. So a little bead head on there, so you can kind of throw it in front of them and get it down to their level. If you're fishing a sink tip line on spinny or Antero reservoirs, this is a good one to kind of just swim with no bead, or even fish under an indicator. But that's a great Callibaetis nymph. You can also see how this type of pattern, this gilled nymph type of pattern, would lend itself well to any mayfly that's got large gills. A green drake nymph, tied a little burlier. You can see how lively those fibers are when I blow on them there. Anything that's got that wider abdomen with the long gills could be matched up with a gilled nymph like this. So there you are. That's for Shane, and that's also for Craig Smith, who was in my fly tying class and came and banged on my office door the other day and said, hey, you need to tie this. So I don't usually take requests like that, but I like Craig, so I did. So there you go, Craig. Shane Stalkup's Gilled Nymph. Tie some up. Go sit in a float tube. Throw them in a lake. Listen to your reel. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Take care. I'm Charlie Craven.